Make this quick. This is part 8. Lighting, makeup, Easter eggs, oh my. Alright, so the first thing I want to talk about is lighting. And I want to be brief about this because it's the one thing that I have the least amount of experience with. And the reason I have a little experience with it is because of two things. One, I didn't have the proper equipment for my movie, and two, I also didn't have the crew members available to me to actually utilize that said equipment. And so what are the lighting techniques? Well, many of the larger productions will have standing lights that they'll put in certain locations. And now, even though I haven't had experience with it, I do understand the techniques and why they work and why you need to use them. So for example, when you're viewing me right now, you see that this side of my face is slightly darker than this side. The reason that is because of the light source, which is right there. And therefore, it's shining mostly on this side of my face. So if I wanted to get a good viewing, then I would need to have another light over here to get equal amount of light on both sides of my face, or using reflectors to reflect that light to this side of my face. And that's an example of a technique that production companies use for lighting, to get proper lighting where you need light at certain areas on a person or an object or a scene. And so what types of equipment do production companies use? Well, they will use light stands like these. But lighting stands like those, as well as a better video editing software, are two of the things at the top of my list of what to get next for my production company. But what did I use for my movie for lighting? I used this. This is what I used for my lighting. And you know, it's pretty decent. You know, you can move the light around like that. You can move it up and down. But the problem is they're both connected. And so you have to I had to move these around in certain ways away from each other to try to get the lighting on both sides how I wanted, even though they're connected here. But this is the only thing that I had at my disposal at the time. And you know, that's what you gotta do, is just use what you have at the time. And this worked for what I needed. I used the natural light or lights from the rooms, as well as this light to direct lights where I needed to. But there were cases where perhaps there was a little too much light in certain scenes, and there were some occasions where I wish there would have been a little more light or directed light in certain areas. So that's lighting. That's the basics of lighting. So how did you feel before, during, and after on working on this film with me?
Well, before, when I initially heard, like, my dad came to me and said, hey, there's this guy who was looking for a makeup artist for his film, and I said your name, and he said he'd totally be interested, and I was like, kind of like, whoa, wait a second. This is something happening, because it was just a hobby that I was doing and stuff, and I think it's 15 at the time, just a little 15-year-old kid thinking like, dude, I hope I'll be good enough for this and stuff like. So I was just hoping that I'd be able to do well enough on it. And during, I felt it was really cool to work with someone else, like of what they wanted, trying to. I felt like I had kind of a lot of leeway on what you weren't too very specific on what you had, but you gave me enough to.
But you had direction.
Mm-hmm. And after, I felt like I did definitely learn something from this because I was working in spaces that weren't my own. I need to like set up, clean up, all of that stuff. Working with people that weren't like my friends that didn't mind if I like got makeup in their eye or something. So working with that, so I felt it was like a really good learning experience and all that.
Can you go into a little bit of detail of some of the techniques you used for the makeup that you did in my film?
Yeah, for the main character, it was he had the ear prosthetics and the all red makeup. For the all red, I did use some airbrush stuff, which sometimes didn't work too well. I had some technical difficulties, but that was something for just airbrushing. and then applying the prosthetics with, Pros Aid. But the main, big makeup thing was definitely the tree aspect, which the technique I used on that was just an old cotton buildup with latex, putting glue on the arms before, hopefully not ripping off all their hair, but just cotton and latex buildup and then painting over. And to make the process go a little faster, I did get some tint to put into the latex, so I wouldn't have to base it over something darker under and then lighter on top to give it that depth.
Yeah. And we had to do that a few times, especially the main character, as you said, with the red makeup, and we had to do that several different days and several different times for to do his different scenes. So that was interesting. And you're, like you said, you're 16 now. You're a young makeup artist, and it was the first time I had to get someone to do any makeup for anything that I was doing. And from what I could tell, I mean, you did a phenomenal job, and I definitely would recommend you to anybody else that came along my path, and I would definitely ask you in the future to do any future projects that I might have. So I thank you for being a part of this film with me. And
thank you for giving me the opportunity. It was really fun.
Yeah, thank you. And lastly, Easter eggs. And no, I'm not talking about the little eggs that you go and hide for little kids to go find. In the video industry, Easter eggs do mean the similar thing. Easter eggs are items or messages hidden within a movie or a video, typically within the background, that is to either pay homage or a joke or some kind of message about the movie, about something related to the movie, or the message of the movie itself. And I love it when movies do that, because what Easter eggs do is it causes your viewers to pay attention. And it also causes your viewers to go back and rewatch over and over again to try to pick out all these Easter eggs within your film. And because I love that so much, that I decided to do that in my movie. I didn't do as many as I would like to have done, but like I explained in a previous episode a while back, one thing that I did was this, which was a fake license plate that I put on the back of my car that spells Vivid backwards. And a couple of other Easter eggs that I had in my film was a Pilot for a Day t-shirt, which was, Pilot for a Day was a band, one of my good friends, Nolan Smith, who, it was his band, and I had one of their t-shirts in my closet in one of the scenes. As I took one shirt down, the shirt that was behind it was a Pilot for a Day t-shirt. That, it kind of went quick, but that was an example of an Easter egg. And another example would have been something that probably people wouldn't have picked out were like the house numbers of my character's mother's house and grandmother's house. And what I did was I covered up numbers on the houses because, for two reasons. One, because I wanted to keep that information private, but also I used that to my advantage for a couple of more Easter eggs. And for those of you who ever know anything about adding numbers together and seeing what they come up with, what I did with that was the numbers on the houses, if you add them up, they always equaled 6, which is typically associated with a demonic, as a demonic number. And since we had Azazel, the demon, in the movie, that's what the correlation was between the number 6 in the numbers that you add up and the demon character Azazel. And so that was in there twice, the numbers. And another one was the number on the doctor's office room, which was 15. The number 15, and if you add 1 and 5 together, that's 6. Another was a audio an oral Easter egg, which was when Pilot for a Day again was mentioned over a radio broadcast. It was a radio broadcast. It was actually me on the radio, but that was another Easter egg.
Here for you from Pilot for a Day. It's called A Little More.
The last one was the symbol that is above my bed. And I've only told one person what that means, and I'm not going to tell what it means now, but I encourage you to look that up. It is a Japanese symbol, and it correlates to the story of the movie on whether what was happening in the movie was real or not. So I'll leave that up to you to figure out. But that's what Easter eggs are, and I encourage you to use Easter eggs in your film because they're really fun to do, really fun to go look for in movies. Just like there were 4 in this video.